Welcome to Morning Infusion with Dr. V, where we are intentional about connecting you with leaders that have overcome so that you know that the possibilities are endless. It's Dr. V here, where our coaching program teaches nurses to work from their computers anywhere around the world, making money and owning their own time. Our featured guest today is Kiana Williams. Kiana Williams is a registered nurse and an aspiring entrepreneur who hails from New Orleans, Louisiana. You sound like Louisiana too. She is an alumna of the Charity School of Nursing. She got her Master's of Science in Nursing from Concordia University in Austin with a concentration in healthcare project management and emphasis in leadership. Kiana is the founder of Holistic Balance LLC. She is creating her path as a speaker, writer, and a coach. She is also the author of The Golden Rose, My Journey Towards Conquering Stress. This anthology serves to share the triumphs and the victories of 30 nurses' victories of achieving successful arrival towards their unique destination. So welcome, Kiana.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Dr. V.
Good morning. Super excited to have you here. So now tell us the original reasoning why you became a nurse.
So the original reason why I became a nurse is probably not like the usual story you'll hear. When I started going for my GED, because I dropped out in 11th grade, once I completed it, I had this person assigned to me. Her name was Miss Joy. And so I did really well. And she said, Kiana, you have to take this career assessment test. And I was like, me? Because originally I wanted to be a journalist. Finds out that I don't ask enough questions to be a journalist. So I'm just not nosy enough. But she was like, Kiana, you have to take this test. And I was like, okay. So when I took the test, it told me that I should be an LPN. And I said, okay, well, let's try that. And that's how I became a nurse, honestly. The career assessment test told me to.
I got you. Like my mom told me to. I feel you, girl. I understand. Because I was like, I want to be an engineer. My mom was like, nah, that's not what we're going to do. It's like, okay, fine. I love it. Love it. How it's interesting, though, the ways in which we become, we get into the nursing career field. Now, what did you begin your nursing career and why did you choose this as your interest into the nursing arena?
So again, originally I started out, I thought I was going for LPN, but I ended up going for RN. And so I wanted to do labor and delivery. And I think I wanted to do labor and delivery because everyone told me I would be good at that. And that was just an assumption because I have 7 children. Well, I started out, it was a 16-week training under the charity umbrella here in New Orleans and at University Hospital. Started out in OBS and postpartum, right? So my first job, Hurricane Katrina happened. I was stuck in the hospital for 7 days. They had to come get us and rescue us by helicopter. It was crazy. And some kind of way, I still came back to be a nurse. But anyhow, they closed the hospital down. And so that was what I originally started out doing. So after that, I just I did med surg. I did long-term care, did other things, but I didn't quite fit. It was just, okay, let me go to work, So then finally I got an offer to go into the operating room and I said, I'll give it a try. At the time that hospital had 8 hours, one patient at a time. What else could you ask for in my mind? Tried it and end up in the OR.
It's interesting because, and that's what I tell people about nursing is that nursing is so diverse. Like you can do anything, right? Absolutely. And you can learn anything. And one of the things that I have never, ever wanted to do is to do L&D. Never, ever. Because I remember me as a pregnant person. I was not nice, right? I was like, They're pregnant. They've been pregnant for 9 months, and then we're gonna put them in labor, or they're gonna go into labor, and then
Right.
they're gonna be hurting, and then they're gonna scream back at me. And I was like, that is, that's not where I want to be, right? And everybody else is looking at the end result, right? Is that they get these babies who are super cute, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good, because it was funny. We were in the emergency department one day, and this lady came in. And one of the things that I was very intentional about is putting people out in the front who were not they knew whenever emergency hit, right? Because you have to do that, right? Because you don't want people to be screaming wolf all the time, right? And
Correct.
so when they called me, they were like, this lady's out here and she's about to deliver. And I said, okay. And so I started running. And it was so funny because one of my colleagues, he was like, I never see you run. Because by this time, I had probably been a nurse for like 20 years, right?
Okay.
And he was like, I never see you run. Why are you running? I said, if I run, you need to run with me. And he was like, okay. And so we started running, right? And as we were running, we did, I mean, you could tell she was like, I gotta push. And I was like, don't you do that. No, no, no. And so they didn't have her register, right? And so we put her on the stretcher and we rolled upstairs, and literally she went from the stretcher to the bed. And when she got in the bed, she pushed the baby out. And I mean, literally registration had to run with us in order to band her.
Right, right.
And so I was like, hey, this is not the way, this is not where I want to be right here. This is not it.
Right, right. Oh my God. But it was exciting. I could
That's
tell from
right.
your voice it was exciting.
So now you are an operating circulating nurse. Now tell the audience what a circulating nurse main role is.
The circulating nurse main role is always to be that patient's advocate. And I say that, and even though it's in every part of nursing, we're the patient's advocate. But your patient is asleep. They can't speak for themselves. So everything that goes on in that room, you're responsible for it. You're responsible for making sure your patient is the correct procedures verified, that this is the correct patient, that all the medications that patient is allergic to is already noted. You're responsible for properly positioning that patient to prevent any breakdown. You're responsible for assisting anesthesia with induction and extubation. You're responsible for making sure sterility is not broken in that room, and if it is, to fix it, because that can cause long-term an infection, whereas the patient has to be in the hospital a little longer. You're responsible for making sure nothing is maintained in that patient. No sharps, no instruments, none of sponges. And all those things are your responsibility, as well as documenting and just keeping the room organized. And so it's a lot, but in most cases, because my primary background has been at a level 1 trauma center, so it's a lot, but it's organized chaos. It's organized chaos, and everybody needs everybody. So
Gotcha.
and what I love about it is such a team environment, because behind the double doors, no initials matter. Everybody needs everybody, literally.
I love it. Now you have 7 children. How were you able to balance life as a mom and a nurse, and what were some of the challenges?
Well, I still have those challenges. Those kids, oh goodness gracious. But the thing about it, I think initially when I started school, as a nurse, you know how sometimes what you don't know is kind of better off that you don't know. So I didn't know that I was actually doing something that most people wouldn't really think of doing. I actually recall while in school, I set out. I was pregnant with my 7th child, um, my third round in nursing school, and I set out. I was so close. And I remember the dean asked me, she said, well, you have 6 kids at home? I said, yes, ma'am. And she looked at me. She said, well, what makes you think you can complete this program with 6 children and 1 on the way? I said, well, honestly, before me coming to set out, you didn't even know I had kids. So apparently something's going right, but I'll be back, you know. So I never knew all that. You know, when people ask me, well, how did you do it? I just did it. To be totally honest with you, I just did it. I didn't think about it as much because I find that when I do think about things too hard and too much, it doesn't take place. So that, and just having that support system of my mother, at the time, she was really, really, really the other parent, you know. So that was a big part of it. But just having that balance, and when I say balance, I'm not saying that everything got, you know, equal time, but that balance of, you know, harmony, and putting things together that's going to work at that moment where, you know, children are starving, the light's still on, and, you know, and that was the school part. But as far as work, again, once I got into the operating room, initially I started those 8 hours, so it helped me a lot, just being able to choose my shift and have that diversity and that flexibility when I work.
You know, I love what you said, because in that you said basically that you didn't consider any other option. You considered the one option of, I'm going to pass this no matter what, no matter how. And that, and I think that I struggle with people who come in and say, well, what makes you think that you're not going to do this? Well, what makes you think that I'm not going to do this? Right? You
Yes.
know, I mean, as an instructor and as a teacher, you know, she should have been, you know, focusing you towards the possibilities and not your limitations, right? And making sure that you are, and you know, people have their ulterior motives for whatever they do, but I
Right.
just think that that's a miss. I hate that. I hate that she even did that to you, but you know, obviously it did not work. So
No.
anyway,
You know, I heard Lisa Nichols said this
do
a
what
few
now?
years ago. She
Go,
said,
go.
Lisa Nichols, she said, you know what? Some of your motivation might just come wrapped in sandpaper.
That's
And
right.
that's what that was. Because I was like, oh, okay, I got you. I'm one of those people. I don't have to say too much, but when I go, I got you. Yeah.
That means that the limits are off, right? The limits are off. And look at you now. You have your master's. You're a self-care and wellness coach. You're rocking it out with those 7 children,
Yes,
right? You have
absolutely.
done the doggone thing. So I love it. So now you went into the hospital because you had 2 TIAs. Now tell us how you knew that you needed to seek medical help at that time.
The thing about this, let me tell you, God takes care of, He takes care of His people. He takes care of His children. Both times that I had a TIA, guess where I was? At
Where?
work, at work already.
Ah, gotcha.
So you have these people again, you know, in the OR, you really work close with people. And so I happen to be at the same facility. And these people, they know you well. So the first time, it was a scrub tech, an older lady. She looked at me, she said, baby, you feeling all right? And I don't know what happened after that, but apparently I didn't respond the way she should. And she's a very persistent person. And she's like, you feeling okay? And I was like, you know, I just remember her saying, you look kind of fuzzy. She said, you look kind of fuzzy. And then the second time, it was a nurse, and I'll never forget Catherine. Catherine is a lot like myself. We was at the Pyxis withdrawing medications, and she said, you know, honey, you a little lost of words, and I've been working with you 10 years, and you never been lost of words, you know. So what's going on? And again, before it was all over, I end up hearing stroke activation. And I think about it, I thought about it last night. I said, you know, the first time I had that TIA, it was after, you know, shortly after I lost my mother. And the second time I had it, it was shortly after I lost myself. And so I thought about that last night. I was like, yeah, you know, when you internalize things and put off what you need to take care of, it catches up to you. But I had people that recognized that something's not wrong with Kiona. So that's how I was able to get help.
You know, I think there's value in that. I value in how stress manifests in physical symptoms, number one. You
Yes.
know, and people just don't really realize that the stress does manifest itself in physical symptoms. But as well, you know, it's important for people who are, you know, luckily you were around people who had the medical knowledge to be able to say, okay, wait a minute, something's going not going right with you, right? And
Right.
so they were able to recognize that you were having a quote unquote mini stroke, a transient ischemic attack, which is what TIA is. And they were able to recognize that. And a lot of people, and I tell people a lot of times that, recognizing that is huge, 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 because you have such a short amount of time. If you are having a full blown thrombolytic stroke, that you got to get that patient to the hospital. You got to get them to the hospital because there's a 3 to 5 hour window time, which you can give those clot busting medications. And so it's huge, huge, huge. But I'm so super glad that you were around people who could recognize, right, what you were
Yeah.
going through.
Yes.
Now, you said someone came to your bedside and said something to you. What did they say and how did it change your life?
I had the TIA and I was in MICU. And so it was just right at the change of shift. And I had never met this nurse. And she came in my room and she said, "Makeup." I said, "How are you feeling?" And she's talking to me. I'm like, I'm well. I'm okay. That's my well. She said, "Hey." So she started asking them, the questions, doing her assessment. And this nurse, I never had heard her. She was about my age, and she looked at me. She said, "Okay, all that's fine." I said, "You," said, "I don't know what's going on." She had tears in her eyes. She said, "I don't know what you do. I don't belong here." She said, "Whatever it is that you're going through, whatever you have to go, go." She said, "You belong here." And I was 43 at the time. So she was, I got where she was coming. It meant a lot to me. I mean, of course, waking up in ICU was an eye opener too, but just that conversation, because again, I had never actually, I never didn't know each other, but she walked in there, and I think the reason why she walked in there is because and look, look up, and I didn't belong there. I didn't, and so I had to take into consideration she had those symptoms. They manifested that morning, but this had been going ongoing. This is ongoing thing. That just that you downplay, that you don't really acknowledge, and situations are so that really got my attention as well.
So I'm gonna try to recap because the audio was going in and out. So the what she said was, you don't belong here. Basically, she said that you
Yeah.
didn't belong here, that it had been going on for a while, and that you didn't belong where you were because you guys were around the same age. And I think that, sometimes, especially whenever you're in stressful situations, whenever people say that to you, or whenever people are really, really intuitive and understand what's going on in your life without, because sometimes you have to look objectively at some things in order to be able to tell what's going on. And that's huge, huge, huge. And so I love the way that she did that she just, brought you out of that and said, okay, this is not where you belong. This is not what you need. And this has to change. Now, you made some career changes as a result of that conversation. What were the career changes and why did you change your life?
Well, I said that I need to stay from all the known around me. Um, I decided I need to just wait. So I was from the hospital and then eventually discharged, from the doctor and told me, "Okay, I decided not to do a contract and take a contract." I actually took a travel assignment. My first travel assignment was in travel. So one of the best decisions, if not a life-saving decision for me.
I didn't hear that last part. You said life-changing decision.
Yes, it was a life-changing decision for myself. So the thing about it is when I took that assignment, I went where I had never been. Actually even know what quadrillion was before taking that assignment. Didn't even know how to pronounce it. I had to, my son who was like, where is it? No, but it's 17 to 22-hour flight across the world. And so it was very, and I can tell you the emergency was somebody falling off the bike. So it wasn't a high acute error. While I was there, I had no choice but to unplug. I had no choice but to unplug. And it was me, the ocean, and God, my tears, and my journal. And I began to unpack a lot of things that I didn't even know was there. And so that was an opportunity for me to really step back. I had just taken place before then, but what had been taking place. Because you're so busy, son. You with everything, everything, and you don't even give yourself that time. So I was able to do that. And that's when I began to, because that's when it began, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. And I had conversation with people, and he said, well, Kiana, what do you want? And I really was frank. But nobody had asked Kiana what she wanted in a very long time, over 20 something years. And I had thought, I was like, what I want is a child. So it really did open my eyes. It was life changing. It was just changes to be able to do that for you.
So what I heard, because again, the audio and video is breaking up again. So what I heard was that you went to, an island, and you were able to just unplug and just, really, really understand who you were. Right. Because I think that what happens a lot of times is that we get to the point where we get out, and we don't know who we are. Like, we don't know who we are. We don't know who we get into these relationships, and I'm just talking about relationships, because your relationship with the hospital is your relationship with the hospital. Your relationship with your mom is your relationship with your mom. Your relationship with yourself is your relationship with yourself. And we get into these times, and we don't understand who we are. And once we boil down who we are to the core of who we are, and it's hard time, because it's such an ambiguous statement, right? Who are you, right? Because we identify as one person. We identify as a mom. We identify as a wife. We identify as a nurse. But who are you at the core of who you are? Who are you? And so asking those questions sometimes really, really gets us to the point where we're able to really understand who we are specifically, because we don't want to take this same person from one relationship to the next relationship to the next relationship. I love it. So now you wrote a book. Now, why did you choose to write a book, and what is the book about?
I collaborate with others, and we all described our unique journey. The name of my book is called My Journey Towards Conquering Stress. And so I decided to go with that because that's what the time, and I other people to know. Other people to know about, like you said, just identifying who you are, because we get issues, really unpacking and getting to the core of who I am, and as well as deal with it. Because the more you suppress, it's going to come out one way or the other. It's going to come out on one or the other. So I had really get out. It actually was therapeutic for me to actually write this, because when you write, you all the things that you haven't in a while, And so it was just therapeutic to get it out. And I'm hoping that it'll inspire other people before they get to ICU.
Now, where can the audience find you?
I'm Stella Rose Williams. IG, Instagram, I'm Kiona_. I'm Stella, then all Kiona Williams. They want to reach me via email. They can reach me at Kiona@holybalance.lc.com.
I love it. I love it. So I want you to drop the links once we finish with this interview. Drop the links in the comments so that they can know exactly where to find you. Okay. So they can just click, because you know how people are. They need that 8 seconds, right? And we want them to come find you and get your book.
I am one of those people.
So you understand.
Yeah.
So thank you for showing up today. So now we will be starting the cohort of VP Nursing Business Academy in October. It is a 6-month comprehensive program that leads nurses and coaches working from their computers anywhere around the world, making money and owning their own time. If this interests you, we can jump on a call so that you're able to gain clarity on how to create multiple streams of income. You can sign up at V as in Victor, P as in Paul, nursing.com. I ask that you like and share this podcast. And I just want to let everyone know, Morning Infusion with Dr. V. It's where we're intentional about connecting you with leaders that have overcome, so that you know that the possibilities are endless. And Miss Kiona Williams, she has overcome. So I'm super excited. Thank you for joining us this morning. And you guys have a phenomenal rest of your day.